Hey guys, welcome to the channel. How are you guys doing today? We have a pretty exciting video for you guys today. We are looking at what's in the bag of Bryson Dechambeau for the 2021 season. Now obviously this is the start of the season with the Cobra Radspeed woods just having been released. So these do feature in Bryson's bag, and let's jump straight in and start taking a look at exactly the clubs Bryson uses. Now Bryson is probably the most interesting player in the world to have a look at his equipment because frankly, his equipment is like no one else's. He does so many things differently to every single other person that it's just incredible to see some of the equipment he is using. And now with how long he is getting, how much speed he is building, you know, no other PGA Tour player could even use this equipment. So let's dive straight in and start taking a look. So what's in the bag? We're going to start out with the driver and we're going to work our way down. So driver, he's using the Cobra King Radspeed 5.5 degrees of loft with a LA Golf BAD prototype 60 gram extra stiff shaft. Now, there's a few very interesting things about this driver that he's using. First of all, it's obviously the new Cobra King Radspeed, so the latest version of the Cobra drivers. I'm yet to hit these, but I've heard very good things about them. If you've hit them, comment down below, let me know what you thought of them. The most interesting thing about this driver, it's 5.5 degrees of loft. That's absolutely crazy. You know, this is getting into the kind of lofts that we see from the professional World Long Drive Championship golfers. You know, they use, you know, anything between kind of 3 to 5 degrees, most of them, of loft. So it is crazy. If you looked down at the loft of this driver, you would probably not be able to see the driver face. It would almost look de-lofted to you, bearing in mind the driver I'm using at the moment probably has almost double the amount of loft as this, so pretty crazy to start. Obviously he's using the LA Golf shaft. This is the BAD prototype, so this is actually his own creation with LA Golf. These shafts feature pretty much throughout his golf bag. BAD is obviously Bryson's initials, and it's what's written on his yardage book as well. It's a 60 gram shaft, so it's not actually very heavy. It says it's an extra stiff shaft, but I would think that this extra stiff shaft would be more like a double X because of Bryson's speed. I would think it's going to be a very, very, very stiff shaft. So let's dive in now to Bryson's next club. He is using the Cobra King Speed Zone Tour, but he's got this in a 2-wood instead of a 3-wood. It's 11.5 degrees. Bear in mind, pretty sure my driver is currently set to 11.5 degrees. So, you know, this is seriously, seriously low loft. And he's got this again in an LA Golf BAD prototype 70 gram TX shaft. I don't really know much about these shafts. I don't know if you can actually buy them to, you know, as consumers, as normal members of the public. I think these might be kind of specially made for Bryson, but you know, if you have some more information on that, let me know. So there is a few other things interesting about this choice with, you know, other than it just being a 2-wood. And, you know, bearing in mind, he doesn't exactly hit this thing low, he sends it into space, so pretty crazy, and he hits this thing over 300 yards. It's ridiculous. The other thing that draws my attention is this is not the newest version of the Cobra King woods. This is not the Radspeed, this is the Cobra King Speed Zone Tour. Now, being the Tour, this is going to be the smaller headed one, and also this is interesting because obviously Cobra would want Bryson to be using the latest versions of their products, so they'd want him to be using the Radspeed fairway woods. So it could be a few different things which is causing him to still use last year's. It could be that he just really, really likes this one. It just does exactly what he wants. It could be that he hasn't had enough time to test out the new products and get a version of it which he is happy with, because obviously Bryson is super, super precise when it comes to his equipment, and he wants to make sure it's going to perform in exactly the same way as he is used to. And, you know, it could be a combination of both those things. So it always draws my attention to that when things like this happen, we see tour players not using the current versions, because actually it makes us realize as consumers that maybe the current versions aren't always the best, and there is some, you know, subjectivity to that and kind of personal choice. So next, Bryson goes to his 5-wood. Again, this is the Cobra King Speed Zone Tour, 13.5 degrees. So bear in mind, this is more de-lofted than most tour players' 3-woods. I mean, quite a lot more de-lofted. I reckon there's a lot of tour players out there who probably play 13.5 degrees in their driver, and I've definitely, you know, added a lot of loft to my driver, but 13.5 degrees 5-wood. Again, he has this Cobra King Speed Zone Tour with LA Golf BAD prototype 80 gram TX shaft. Again, using the same head as his 3-wood, so not the latest version in there. With the same shaft, he's just added 10 grams of weight to it there, so probably slightly heavier. And then we dive into the irons. Now, obviously, Bryson is so well known for using one-length irons. He is probably the biggest ambassador of one-length irons in the modern game, and I don't even know another player who actually uses one-length irons. So he does a few very interesting things with his irons. First of all of his irons are, I believe it's 37.5 inches long, which is about the length of a 7-iron. So every one of them is about the length of a 7-iron. All of his clubs, by the way, he uses the Jumbo Max grips. Sorry, so he has those extra large Jumbo Max grips on all of his clubs. Now, these are actually the thickest grips that are commercially available. I actually have a set of them, and I have used them on some of my clubs before and tried them out. And to be honest, I actually really like them. I thought they were really good. I don't know why I don't currently use them. I think you get a lot of weird looks, but I mean, they obviously work for Bryson. They're supposed to be very, very good for taking pressure out of your hands and wrists, and so very good for anyone with like arthritis who might be a little bit older. Really, really good for that. So he has these on all of his clubs, super, super thick grips. And in his irons, he has 2 different types of irons. So in his 4 and 5 iron, he has the Cobra King Speed Zone 1 length with, again, LA Golf shafts, bad prototype rebar shafts, these are called. So the 4 and 5 iron, this is the Cobra King Speed Zone 1 length. So these are like the slightly kind of more forgiving, chunkier, go a little bit further, launch a bit higher iron. So, he has a bit more forgiveness in this. Now, it's really interesting that he's doing this because I think Bryson is one of very few players who doesn't really care too much about what his equipment looks like. He doesn't really care too much about if it's a blade, if it's a cavity back, if it's, a game improvement iron. He just wants them to perform as he wants them to perform to the best possible level. So he's definitely going to get a bit more distance out of these Cobra King Speed Zone 1 length irons in the 4 and 5. I have seen Bryson also use a 2 iron that probably replaces that 5 wood sometimes, but I think this is mostly, probably places like the Open Championship where he really wants to keep the ball low in windy conditions. He then goes into the Cobra King Forged Tour 1 length. So obviously these are more of the player's iron. They're a bit of a cavity back, but pretty slim. Again, obviously all of these in 37.5 inches with LA Golf shafts, bad prototype rebar shafts. He has this from 6 iron down to pitching wedge. So all of the same irons there, all of the same length, everything like that. Now in his wedges, these are quite interesting because up until recently, Bryson had a mix of Cobra wedges and he had some PXG wedges as well. Obviously very interesting because PXG don't sponsor him, but now actually in his wedges, he has some artisan prototype wedges. Now these are kind of handmade, a small manufacturer, handmade product. I haven't hit them personally, but I have seen them. They look pretty cool. He has these in 47 degrees, 52 degrees, and 58 degrees. So quite big gaps there really in his wedges, Typically 47 is kind of more coming towards the territory of a pitching wedge actually, coming kind of close to that. 52 and then 58. There are quite big gaps. I mean, that's so that's 5 degrees and then 5 degrees and 6 degrees gaps between his 2 wedges. Again, he has these in the same shafts, the LA Golf rebar bad prototype shafts. Now, Bryson has actually been fiddling around a little bit with his putter as well. He's been switching regularly between a blade and a mallet. The blade is made by Sick Golf. It's a prototype that was kind of specially made for him. And also the mallet is then an Odyssey XO model. Right now he's using the Sick Golf prototype, and this is kind of what I've personally seen him using the most out of the last few years. I believe this is what he won the US Open with, and I think probably won most of his tournaments with actually. I think occasionally he just likes to fiddle around with it and try something, but it's obviously working well. Bryson's putting is actually probably the most underrated on the PGA Tour. Everyone always says, everyone talks about what a good driver of the golf ball he is, how long he is, what a good ball striker he is, but actually everyone, if you listen to tour players talking about him, everyone always says he is the most underrated putter. He is such a good putter. And if you ever watch him putt, they always look pretty close to the hole if they aren't going in. So, very, very good putter. He does a few other interesting things with his putter. He does have a very, very stiff LA Golf prototype putter shaft in there as well, like really stiff, really rigid. He has also a Jumbo Max grip on the putter. This is it's a very long grip, very flat on one side, and he has the flat side facing the hole, and it's a very long putter as well. So this kind of sits up his forearm and shaft, and he has his arms completely straight, bolt straight, and then he just controls the face of the putter by keeping his left forearm completely square. Now this actually is a putting method which has been talked a lot about recently. I heard Nick Doherty on Sky Sports talking about this recently, and kind of saying that if he was going to start the game over again, obviously he used to be a tour pro and now he's a commentator, so if he was going to start the game over again, he would use this method of putting from Bryson to actually learn. And he says, if you're a beginner, if you're a young guy going out there trying to learn how to putt, or you're not very good at putting, try this, because it is apparently supposed to be incredibly consistent. So next, we have the golf ball. Bryson uses the Bridgestone Tour BX golf ball. I have actually used this golf ball before, and I really did enjoy using it. It feels really good. It's quite it goes a long way, I would say, and it's pretty soft feeling. It has a really good bounce off the face. It just feels really good. And Bryson, with all of the testing he's done with golf balls, you in some ways have to trust him, because he really analyzes everything down to the finest degree, finest margins and everything as well. He obviously is sponsored by Puma, uses all of their clothing and shoes as well. He also uses TrackMan and actually Foresight GC Quad. When he's on the range, he tends to use both of these to get different metrics, different data, because one analyzes the ball more, one analyzes the club. So Bryson obviously uses a huge amount of equipment, but not just that. When my manager represents quite a lot of European tour pros. He was actually out in Dubai, I think it was at the beginning of last year, when Bryson was playing out there. And Bryson's caddy walked around in a practice round with them and some of their players, and apparently he was putting into every single green, he had some kind of device that had like a needle looking thing, and you put it deep down into the green, which measured how firm, and I believe it was just how firm the ground was, and how deep it was. It might have also measured some moisture in the ground as well, and calculated basically how the ball was going to react, how it was going to bounce. But they did it off every single green, because every green, in their eyes, there might be some variations between every green. So the level of analysis in Bryson's golf game is crazy. It is something, that we as amateurs and, average golfers, we can't replicate that. We don't have a caddy. We don't understand all of this information. If we did, it would be unbearably slow going and confusing golf. And, it's actually crazy how much he analyzes the game. But obviously, it 100% works for him. It's so interesting to see all the changes he's going through with his golf swing, trying to gain even more speed. It seems like the ball speed is just going higher and higher, and he's just going to keep getting longer and longer. And I personally absolutely love it. I think it's so entertaining, so exciting, and just brings more engagement, more involvement, more excitement to the game of golf. He's not winning every single week, so you can't really say that he's that this huge increase in distance is allowing him to really dominate the world of golf. But it's working for him, and I personally love to see it. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of all of those clubs in Bryson's bag. Is there anything that stood out to you? Have you ever tried one length irons? I'd love to know. Have you ever tried a 5.5 degrees driver? I don't think I'd be able to physically get it off the ground, but some really interesting clubs in there. And as always, guys, do like this video, do subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next one, and as always, guys, grip it and rip it.